Dad always had a gift for lies. That night at the family dinner table, he sharpened it into a weapon. "She's pregnant," he announced, voice steady, eyes cold, and on drugs. The silence was louder than his words. Forks froze. My mother's hand trembled against her glass. My brothers wouldn't meet my ayahs. Nobody asked me. Nobody cared to. At 18, I was branded a disgrace, cast out like rot from a harvest. But he didn't count on one thing. I kept the truth. My father wasn't always my enemy. Once he was the man I wanted to impress. He taught me chess, drilled into me thought of patience, foresight, sacrifice. "The queen is powerful," he'd whisper, moving the piece. "But only if she survives long enough to strike." I thought he was preparing me for life. Turns out he was preparing me for him. The night he condemned me, I packed a single bag and walked out. The doors of the house slammed shut behind me, Adam, sealing off the girl I had been. I didn't cry, not then. Tears are useless when you're being buried alive. Their stories spread faster than I could defend myself. Cousins, neighbors, even teachers whispered. I was the girl who ruined herself, the one who couldn't be trusted. But lies always leave fingerprints, and I saw his. The smirk when people offered him sympathy, the way he puffed his chest, the martyr father holding the family together. He thrived on the performance, the control, and I realized he hadn't just lied about me. He had erased me. I was dead to them. I didn't waste time trying to crawl back. Instead, I studied, worked, survived. I learned to live invisible, sharpening myself into something Hugh wouldn't recognize when I returned. I built a life piece by piece, scholarships, degrees, a career. 10 years of silence, discipline, and rage folded neatly beneath my smile. Every penny I saved was a weapon. Every connection I built was a pawn placed carefully on the board. And all the while, I kept the truth. Documents, photos, letters he thought he'd destroyed. Evidence he never knew survived. My secret arsenal. I wasn't just waiting. I was designing high sending. By the time I turned 28, I wasn't the lost girl he threw away. I was the woman his lies could no longer touch. Step 1, his finances. I'd studied law and finance for a reason. Quietly, I bought the land under his business partner's nose. The partner sold cheap, desperate for cash. My father didn't notice until the eviction notice arrived. His pride and joy, his factory, slipped from his hands into mine. Step 2, the truth. Those files I kept, I released them one by one. Tax evasions, falsified statements, recordings of his manipulations. I never attached my name. I didn't need to. The authorities built their case without knowing the ghost behind it. Step 3, the stage. Our family reunion. 10 years since my exile. Invitation sent? His ego couldn't resist showing off the patriarch's throne he believed he still held. I showed up. Not the broken daughter he'd discarded, but in tailored silk, spine straight, smile controlled. Every eye followed me. Every whisper rose like static in the air. When it was time to speak, I stood calm, collected. He smirked as if I were still 18, but I'd come prepared. I was never pregnant, I said. My voice didn't shake. I was never on drugs. That story was his. Gasps rippled through the room. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My brother stared as if seeing me for the first time. I laid the evidence on the table. Photos, letters, his voice on tape. The room turned into a courtroom, and the verdict was already clear. His face drained as the walls closed in. His authority, his credibility shattered in front of the very people he'd once rallied against me. And then came the final twist. You lied to bury me, I said, eyes locked on his. But while you were digging my grave, I was building my throne. That company you lost, the land beneath your feet, it's mine now. I took your place while you weren't looking. The silence was delicious. The man who once erased me had just been erased himself. He tried to speak, but no one listened. Not anymore. His kingdom had crumbled, and I hadn't raised my voice once. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Revenge isn't about noise. It's about precision. When I walked out of that house, the same doors that once slammed shut behind me. It wasn't as the discarded daughter. It was as the queen he trained me to be. The queen who survived long enough to strike, and I never missed my mark.